The galaxy quaked in horror as the Benzite Imperium's cruel talons snatched 6-year-old Lily Kerrigan from the safety of her bed on planet Benzar. Benzite commandos stormed the human outpost, brutalizing the girl before the powerless eyes of human explorer Kyle Griffin. Griffin raced back to his ship, a frantic warning already screaming from his lips to Earth Central Command. Lily was no ordinary child, daughter of a human diplomat. Her abduction was a deliberate provocation by the notorious Benzite spy master Deneb. Using forbidden mind-ripping technology, Deneb planned to shred Lily's consciousness, stripping her memories for intel on human space to fuel the Imperium's invasion dreams. Chancellor Zorov sneered as Earth's President Steele demanded the child's return, deaf to the humans' impotent rage. The Benzite High Council watched in smug arrogance as Deneb began his grisly work on a sedated Lily, confident their warships could shatter any human reprisal. But the Imperium fatally underestimated the ferocious power of the human spirit when they're innocent or threatened. Across human space, the anguished cry rose like a solar flare, a child of Earth subjected to unspeakable alien cruelty. As a species, humans understood the unbreakable law. You do not harm our young, not without consequence, not without unleashing and annihilating vengeance from which there is no sanctuary. The human war machine rumbled to life, powered by a billion hearts screaming for Benzite blood. The unbound wrath of humanity ready to pour through the stars, to burn and bleed and banish any threat to their children. The Imperium's doom roared on furious rocket plumes. Zorov's empire would learn there are some thresholds you do not cross. Not with humans. The galaxy's most dangerous species was coming, and hell rode with them. As the Benzite High Council smugly dismissed President Steele's demands, Admiral Thaddeus Grayson's eyes narrowed on the holographic readouts flickering before him. The weathered veteran's eyes sharp as he absorbed the reports streaming in from the frontier. Benzite ships on the move, defense platforms spinning up across Imperium space. Steele's ultimatum had been a final courtesy. The old warhorse had already put the gears in motion. It was time to show the galaxy what human retribution looked like. "Initiate Directive Omega-1, Grayson ordered, his gravelly voice cutting through the charged air of the command deck. "All units, commence full mobilization." Across the vast expanse of human space, a shudder rippled through the fabric of space-time as dozens of cloaked stargates flared to sudden, dazzling life. Like ancient gods stirring from slumber, the massive portals yawned open, spilling forth a tide of steel and fury. Sleek warships knifed into existence, their hulls jam-packed with advanced weaponry that glinted coldly in the starlight. Invisible to the Imperium's vaunted sensor nets, the Phantom Armada streaked towards the border, an implacable fist aimed straight at Benzar's throat. On Arcturus Colony, Commander Elias Valor's eyes glinted as the order crackled through his implant. Around him, the hardened operators of Elite Recon Unit 7 moved with fluid precision, final checks on weapons and gear blurring into a lethal dance. In moments, their stealth insertion craft was screaming through the void, racing for the Imperium's exposed flank. The clandestine Benzite comm hub on Keldor Prime's moon never saw them coming. Valor's commandos ghosted through the installation's layered defenses like vengeful specters, leaving a trail of shattered bodies and sparking wreckage. In the span of a dozen heartbeats, the critical link in the Imperium's coordination network went dark, its guardians dead or dying before they could even process the shock of human boots on Benzite soil. But as the first tremors of the human onslaught rattled the Imperium's foundations, a different sort of war was being waged in the shadowed heart of Benzar itself. Zakara, Spy Master Deneb's ambitious daughter, wove her own web of intrigue, whispered words and promised favors, snaring the loyalties of key officers and operatives. Like a spider poised at the center of her trap, the young woman watched and waited, her hunger for power matched only by her icy patience. Deneb himself remained oblivious, too drunk on the heady wine of his imagined invincibility to sense the blades being honed at his back. Crowing to his sycophants about the scraps of intelligence ripped from young Lily's mind, he basked in delusions of the Imperium's inevitable triumph, even as the tool of its downfall slipped a garrote around its neck. Across the stars, anguished parents and seething citizens filled the streets of human worlds, their collective roar for justice swelling into a cacophony that drowned out all other concerns. Ancient feuds and petty rivalries evaporated like dew before the scorching dawn of humanity's unified wrath. Never in the history of the species had so many stood so united in purpose. An entire civilization's titanic fury distilled into a single, searing imperative. Lily Kerrigan would be saved, and those who had dared to harm her would be broken upon the unbreakable wheel of human vengeance. The Imperium's doom hurtled towards it now, wrapped in light-devouring stealth and clenched in the unyielding fists of human warriors. Soon the first hammer blow would fall, and 1,000 more would follow in its wake, until Benzar's skies cracked, and its continents crumbled beneath the weight of humanity's judgment. And as Terran warships punctured the arrogant empire's brittle shell, an enemy far closer to its heart crouched unseen in the darkness, the cruel spy master's own blood preparing to drive the dagger of betrayal deep into his back. The Benzite Imperium shook now, rust flaking from the creaking joints of a war machine too long untested by true opposition, and as the first thunder of railgun fire and the first screams of human wrath began to rumble across Benzar's starfields, the true cost of their arrogance started to bleed through the minds of the Imperium's leadership. The human juggernaut had slipped its leash, and its fangs were bared for Benzite flesh. The children of Earth were coming for their stolen daughter, and the galaxy itself would tremble before the unshackled fury of their charge. The Benzite Imperium's foundations crumbled beneath the unrelenting onslaught of human vengeance. As Terran warships breached the outer defenses, Zakara's web of treachery tightened around the heart of Benzite power. In the opulent chambers of the High Council, plasma bolts sizzled through the air. Zakara's loyal operatives struck with surgical precision, their targets falling before they could comprehend the betrayal. Chancellor Zorov's eyes widened in shock as the barrel of a disruptor pressed against his temple. A cold smile played across Zakara's lips as she squeezed the trigger, vaporizing the arrogant fool who had brought this doom upon them. Alarms blared throughout the capital as Zakara's coup unfolded. The young spy master moved like a ghost through the chaos, her unwavering focus fixed on a single destination, her father's inner sanctum. Deneb paced frantically, barking orders into his comm unit as reports of the human advance flooded in. The door to his chambers hissed open, and he whirled to face his daughter. "Zakara, where have you been? We must—" His words died in his throat as he registered the cold hatred in her eyes and the weapon in her hand. "You utter fool," Zakara spat. "Your hubris has doomed us all." Deneb's face contorted with rage. "How dare you!" A plasma bolt seared through the air, reducing Deneb's head to vapor. Zakara stepped over her father's corpse, seizing the controls of his command center. With a few deft keystrokes, she assumed control of the Imperium's security apparatus. Purge orders flashed across 100 screens, eliminating any who might challenge her rule. As Zakara consolidated her power, Admiral Zoran rallied the battered remnants of the Benzite fleet. The massive dreadnought Imperator hung in high orbit, its weapons already tracking incoming human signatures. "All ships form up on the Imperator," Zoran's voice crackled across the comms. "We will break their advance here, or die in the attempt." Aboard the Terran flagship Victorious, Admiral Grayson's eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical hologram. The Benzite fleet had adopted a defensive posture, anchored by the planet's formidable orbital platforms. A priority transmission cut through the battle chatter. Grayson's brow furrowed as he recognized the source, Zakara herself. "Admiral," the Benzite's voice oozed false charm, "I propose an arrangement, the child and the Imperium, in exchange for your backing of my rule. Surely we can avoid further bloodshed?" Grayson's lip curled in disgust. He terminated the transmission without a word, signaling his fleet to press the attack. Deep within a black site on Benzar's surface, Kyle Griffin led his team through twisting corridors. The staccato bark of pulse rifles echoed as they engaged Zakara's assassins in close-quarters combat. Tracers illuminated the darkness, painting lurid shadows on the walls. Kyle's heart pounded as they neared Lily's cell. The door exploded inward under a breaching charge, revealing the small form huddled in the corner. Kyle rushed to her side, his breath catching at the vacant look in her eyes. "I've got you, Lily," he whispered, gathering her into his arms. "We're going home." As Kyle's team fought their way to the extraction point, the void above Benzar erupted in hellish light. The Imperator's neutron cannons lashed out, carving molten furrows across the victorious hull. Grayson gripped his command chair as the deck bucked beneath him. Klaxons screaming damage reports. From the shadows of Benzar's second moon, a stealth frigate decloaked. Kyle stood on its bridge, his teeth clenched as he gave the order. "Fire everything." A swarm of torpedoes erupted from the frigate's launch tubes, streaking towards the distracted Imperator. The dreadnought's overtaxed shields collapsed under the barrage. Armor plates peeled away like burning paper as the warheads burrowed deep into the ship's vitals. The Imperator died in a spectacular detonation, the shockwave rippling outward to scatter the Benzite formation. Grayson seized the moment, barking orders to exploit the breach. "All ships push through. Benzar is in our grasp." As the human armada surged forward, Zakara fled into the labyrinthine depths of the capital. Her eyes darted wildly, searching for an escape route as the sounds of battle drew ever closer. Aboard Kyle's frigate, Lily lay motionless in the medbay. The ship's psionic specialist shook his head grimly. "The damage is extensive. We need to get her to a proper facility, fast." Kyle nodded, his fingers clenched into fists at his sides. As the frigate accelerated towards the nearest stargate, he made a silent vow. Zakara would pay for what she had done. No matter how long it took, no matter where she ran, he would hunt her to the ends of the galaxy. The battle for Benzar raged on, its outcome still uncertain. But for Kyle Griffin and the shattered child in his care, a different war was just beginning. The dust settled over Benzar's ravaged capital as Zakara emerged from the shadows. Her eyes glinted with cold calculation as she surveyed the destruction wrought by humanity's vengeful onslaught. Bodies of loyalists and traitors alike littered the once pristine corridors of power. Zakara's voice rang out, amplified by the palace's communication systems. "Attention all Imperial forces. I, Imperatrix Zakara, now command the Benzite Imperium. Lay down your arms and swear fealty, or face immediate execution." Across the planet, confused and terrified, Benzite soldiers complied. Those who hesitated found themselves cut down by Zakara's hand-picked assassins, their loyalty bought with promises of power and privilege. In orbit, Admiral Grayson stood aboard the battered bridge of the Victorious, his weathered face illuminated by the harsh glow of holographic displays. Casualty reports scrolled endlessly, each name a weight on his conscience. "Sir," a young lieutenant approached, datapad in hand. "Final tallies from the engagement." Grayson took the pad, his eyes scanning the figures. Thousands dead, dozens of ships lost or crippled. The cost of victory was steep, but the alternative had been unthinkable. On a nearby medical frigate, Kyle Griffin kept vigil at Lily's bedside. The child lay motionless, eyes unfocused, lost in the labyrinth of her own fractured mind. Michael and Samantha Kerrigan huddled nearby, their faces etched with worry and exhaustion. "I swear to you," Kyle's voice was low but filled with iron grit, "Zakara will pay for this, for every moment of pain, for every tear Lily has shed." Michael nodded, his hand tightening on Samantha's shoulder. "Thank you, Kyle, for everything." Back on Earth, President Steele addressed the billions of citizens across human space. His face, broadcast on countless screens and hollow projections, was grim but composed. "Today we have struck a blow against tyranny," Steele declared. "The Benzite Imperium has fallen, but our work is not done. We will not rest until every human captive, every innocent soul like young Lily Kerrigan, is returned to us." As Steele's words echoed across the stars, Zakara paced in her newly claimed throne room. A hologram of Admiral Soran flickered before her, his face a mask of nearly unleashed fury. "You expect me to simply kneel?" Zoran spat. "After everything we've built?" Zakara's smile was razor-sharp, Kneel or die, Admiral. The choice is yours. For a moment, Zoran's hand hovered near his sidearm. Then, with a snarl of disgust, he dropped to one knee. Long live the Imperatrix, he growled. Zakara's victory was short-lived. Within hours, encrypted transmissions from Earth arrived, bearing President Steele's ultimatum. Her lips curled in a sneer as she dismissed the human demands. Fools, she hissed. They think they can dictate terms to me? In a secret facility deep beneath Benzar's surface, Lily Kerrigan's tormented screams echoed through sterile corridors. Zakara's most skilled interrogators worked tirelessly, determined to extract every scrap of intelligence from the child's broken psyche. Unbeknownst to them, a fragmented transmission slipped past their safeguards, carrying Lily's anguished pleas across the void. On Earth, Michael Kerrigan's face drained of color as he listened to his daughter's voice, distorted and filled with pain. His hands shook as he relayed the message to military command. Within hours, humanity's response thundered across subspace channels. Return Lily immediately or face annihilation. Zakara laughed as she read the ultimatum, confident in her ability to outmaneuver the humans. She turned to her advisors, eyes glittering with malice. Prepare our remaining forces. It's time to remind these primates of their place in the galaxy. As Zakara plotted her next move, Kyle Griffin and Elias Valor huddled over holographic schematics of the prison planet where Lily was believed to be held. The world was a nightmarish hellscape, its surface scarred by radiation and dotted with impregnable fortresses. It's a suicide mission, Valor muttered, studying the defenses. Kyle's expression resolute. Then we'd better not fail. Under cover of a staged fleet exercise, their stealth shuttle screamed towards the planet's tortured surface. As they plunged through roiling clouds of radioactive vapor, Kyle's grip tightened on his weapon. Hold on, Lily, he thought. We're coming for you. The shuttle's hull screamed as it tore through Benzar's turbulent atmosphere. Kyle gripped his harness, squeezing hard, as the craft bucked and shuddered. Beside him, Valor's face was a mask of fierce dedication. 30 seconds to touchdown, the pilot's voice crackled over the comm. A deafening boom shook the shuttle as flak bursts erupted around them. Warning lights flashed red across the cockpit console. Kyle felt his stomach lurch as the craft plummeted, no longer under control. Impact. Metal shrieked and twisted. Kyle's head slammed against his restraints, stars exploding behind his eyes. When his vision cleared, acrid smoke filled the cabin. Everyone out! Move! Valor barked, already unstrapping himself. Kyle stumbled from the wreckage, his exosuit's sensors struggling to calibrate in the harsh environment. The valley stretched before them, a hellscape of jagged obsidian and rivers of molten rock. Above, Benzar's dying sun cast an eerie crimson glow across the desolate landscape. Form up, Valor commanded, his voice distorted by his suit's external speakers. Stay low, use your camo. We've got a long way to go. The commandos moved like wraiths across the blasted terrain. Radiation alarms chirped incessantly as they navigated fields of glowing fissures. Twice they were forced to take cover as storms of caustic ash swept over them, the corrosive particles eating away at their armor's outer layers. Hours passed. Kyle's muscles screamed with each step, but he pushed on. Failure wasn't an option, not with Lily's life hanging in the balance. Finally, the looming silhouette of the Kezerex arcology came into view. Its impossible scale dwarfed even the massive monoliths that dotted the valley. Kyle's breath caught in his throat as he took in the fortress-like structure. Somewhere in that techno-dungeon, Lily was waiting. There, Valor whispered, indicating a ventilation shaft barely visible amidst the arcology's outer defenses. Our way in. As they approached, Kyle's boot crunched against something. He looked down, his stomach turning, as he recognized the charred remains of a human skull. The bones of failed infiltrators littered the ground, a grim warning of the dangers that lay ahead. The team slipped into the ventilation system, guided by stolen schematics transmitted directly to their neural implants. The deeper they went, the more Kyle's unease grew. The air itself seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. A muffled scream echoed through the tunnel. Kyle's blood ran cold. This way, Valor signaled, leading them towards a grated opening. They emerged into a vast chamber lined with holding cells. The stench of decay and despair assaulted Kyle's nostrils, even through his suit's filters. In each cell, emaciated figures huddled in the darkness. Some rocked back and forth, muttering incomprehensibly. Others simply stared, their eyes devoid of all hope. "My God," one of the commandos whispered. Kyle approached the nearest cell, his heart pounding. He recognized the man inside, Dr. Elias Chen, a xenobiologist who had vanished from a frontier outpost over a decade ago. Chen's once brilliant mind had been reduced to shattered fragments by the arcology's torments. "We're getting you out of here," Kyle promised, his voice thick with emotion. "All of you." As they worked to free the prisoners, a woman in a neighboring cell spoke. Her voice was barely audible, but her words chilled Kyle to the bone. "The girl, they took her up, to the top, the interrogation level." Kyle's fists clenched. He turned to Valor, seeing his own fury mirrored in the other man's eyes. "We split up," Valor decided. "I'll take a team to find Lily. You get these people to the extraction point." Kyle wanted to argue, to insist on going after Lily himself. But he knew Valor was right. The survivors needed protection, and Kyle's team had the best chance of getting them out alive. "Bring her back," Kyle said simply. Valor nodded, then gestured to half the squad. They disappeared into the depths of the arcology, leaving Kyle to shepherd the freed prisoners back through the nightmarish landscape beyond. As Kyle led the ragged group towards their crashed shuttles, his comm crackled to life. Valor's voice came through, tight with pain and urgency. "Kyle, we found her, but it's bad, real bad. Get to the rendezvous point. We're coming in hot." Kyle's heart raced as he quickened his pace. Whatever horrors awaited in the arcology's spire, he knew the true battle was just the beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.